They'll strike a light. Good day, good day. And how you going? Just say good day, good day, good day, and you'll be right.
Now we come to the portion of the service before we get into our Bible study that we talk about some end times news and trends and things that are happening concerning Bible prophecy. And it's amazing each week of how quickly things are coming to pass. It's hard to keep on top of everything that is happening. But you're seeing a lot of stuff developing right now as we speak. Just this last week, out of the Israeli National News on Thursday, mentioned this joint U.S. and Israeli workshop preparing for weapons of mass destruction attack. So they're doing this training program to deal with the growing nuclear, chemical, biological weapon threats. So just after the Washington hosted this nuclear summit, as some of you were aware of, and even how they silenced the explicit language that the president of France said that it was Islamic terrorist stuff. They happened to bleep that part out. They said it was technical, but it was just, again, covering up because the White House and other people don't want to say it's Islamic terrorist attacks. Anyways, where the world leaders were talking about the threats of nuclear terrorism, the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs hosted American officials on this 2-day joint workshop on the proliferation of nuclear weapons or mass destruction, which is an imminent threat. Things are ready to go. But in this particular joint exercise that was taking place in Haifa on Tuesday and Wednesday, it brought together the officials and multiple ministries and agencies together to deal with this kind of potential attack head on. The bilateral U.S.-Israeli training exercise focused on the threats from ballistic missiles. As we know, Iran's been launching these things on a regular basis. The use of weapons of mass destruction by terrorist organization and nuclear weapons. This, my friends, is just a matter of time for it to occur. We've talked about Ezekiel 38, 39, and also Psalm 83. These are some of the prophecies that will come to pass. The countries are lining up. The arsenal of these countries is lining up. It's ready to go. So we're just seeing bits and pieces of the puzzle coming together. Also, speaking of weapons, I don't know about your kids. My kids are not learning how to build bombs in school. But this report came out of the Independent on Thursday. The ISIS is teaching children how to make bombs at school and brainwashing pupils with the jihadist ideology using the Quran, of course. The parents who have fled the terrorist organization territories in Iraq said that their children were being trained as bombers. ISIS training children how to make bombs while brainwashing them with the jihadist ideology, according to these parents that are fleeing that particular area. They've replaced the schools with schools that teach them how to fight, how to make these IEDs, and how to make suicide attacks. The Human Rights Watch researchers were talking to one of the boys that left the area, and he described what it was like in building the bomb-making lessons along with the religious teaching just before the family fled to Ramadi. The Human Rights Watch met with a lot of the women and children who had escaped the terrorist rule, including girls who were used as sex slaves and were repeatedly raped by its militant. And this is something that you hear on a regular basis, a daily basis, even what's going on with the Islamic invasion throughout Europe and how the governments in these countries are covering that stuff up. The older women are describing their fears for their children who were either unable to go to closed schools or found themselves forced to adhere the Islamic extremism curriculum. So this is what's happening in those countries. Also, speaking of extremism, political correctness is extreme. It's getting worse and worse. This report came out of also the Israeli National News on Thursday that says that political correctness may destroy Western civilization. So the West refuses to recognize that it's war of survival against Islam. Islam is subverting, invading the unsuspecting West with the intention to conquer its civilization and replace it with Islam and Sharia law. We've mentioned this, but this is the agenda. This is why they're also trying to bring in a lot of these refugees as well. And also in dealing with political correctness. And this one, where I liked how Franklin Graham just tells it like it is with PayPal. and how hypocritical they are, because they're going to do business with countries where homosexual behavior is illegal, but they don't want to do business in North Carolina, where they passed a law to prohibit men going into women's bathrooms and locker rooms. That's a no-brainer. But again, you have companies like PayPal, and you have other companies like them that are going to pull their business from states, which is going to affect the economy because of their agenda. But I like what Franklin Graham says. The PayPal is just a hypocrite, noting that PayPal does business with all these other countries where homosexual behavior is illegal, but decided to fault North Carolina. And North Carolina is just one of many states that is going in that direction. But because of the homosexual agenda, they're going to put a lot of pressure on these governors and the House of Representatives within the states to try to push their agenda. As we mentioned before. And also just a matter of time before we see the destruction and we see this experience. And this report came out of Business Insider. It's out of the finance, out of Yahoo, where Albert Edwards, who's an economist, and he talks about the tidal wave is coming that will throw the U.S. into recession. And when that happens, it's going to have a chain reaction amongst the world. But he says the tidal wave is coming to the U.S. economy, and when it crashes, it's going to throw the economy into recession. And what they're saying, it's going to happen toward the end of this year and the beginning of 2017. So the economist believes the profit recession facing American corporation is going to lead to the collapse of corporate credit. And so we're going to see a lot more of these sort of stories taking place in dealing with the economy. We know that there's going to be a collapse at some point. You see the stock markets failing. You see the drop of the dollar, etc. The economy will definitely be swept away by a tidal wave of corporate defaults and things like that. So it's going to continue to escalate. We're just letting you know it's going to happen. Just be prepared. And this one was big. This one I saw, and quite a few other people emailed me the same article, how this fingerprints being tested for currency in Japan. This came out of the Japan news. There's a lot of other news sources of the same. Starting this summer, just a couple months away from now, the government's going to test a system which foreign tourists will be able to verify their identities and buy things from stores only using their fingerprint. So the government hopes to increase the foreign tourists by using a system to prevent crime and relieve users from the necessary of carrying cash or credit cards. And the aim is to get everything ready before the Olympics, which will be in 2020. So in 4 years away from that. And as we mentioned, that Australia is going to go cashless by that time as well. So just a couple of years away for that to happen. But the experiment will have inbound tourists register their fingerprints and other data, such as credit card information at airports and other places like that. The tourists will be able to conduct tax-exempt procedures and make purchases after verifying their identities by placing their finger on special devices that are installed in stores. There's over 300 souvenir stores right now, and restaurants, hotels, and other establishments that are participating in this particular experiment, and it's going to grow until the Olympics in 2020. So that's their whole goal, is to introduce it little by little, and the aim is also to demonstrate the country's advanced technology and having tourists to use the system while they visit Japan and hopefully before the Olympics. So the data concerning how and where foreign tourists are using this system will be managed by a consultant led by the government after the data is converted to anonymous big data. So they're going to keep tabs of everything and what you do, what you spend things on. And then at the end of, they say that by the end of this month, at the earliest, there's a bank now in Tokyo that is going to become the first bank in Tokyo to test the system, which customers are able to withdraw their cash from an automatic teller machine using fingerprint identification to admit the cash cards as well. So it's going to be interesting how this has taken place. We see the chip being implemented in a lot of people as well. But there's a lot of other stories that we can talk about, trends and end-time news. And again, we talk about a lot more other things on our midweek stuff. But I want to finish with this, and it's kind of a comical incident that took place the other day. But it really speaks to me just about the mentality, the values of people. This one came out of the Business Insider as well. Australian man is arrested for having seatbelt around his beer and not his children. Okay? So again, you're left speechless on this, but the highway patrol in Broome pulled over a guy suspended on Thursday after watching him well over the speed limit, but it wasn't the worst thing he had done. Again, in the front seat, the officers found 2 cases of beer held in the position with the seatbelt. There are several children within the car. None were wearing seatbelts. One child laying across the driver's lap, the other on another adult's lap in the back, and there's others on the footwells. So again, he was charged. But you see the mentality of people like this. You see the priorities, the value system. And this is just one of those, that's a weird thing. But it's going to continue to escalate the weirdness of what people are trying to do with their value system is, the carefree attitude, just go with the flow, she'll be right, no worries, mate, attitude. And no one wants to sense this urgency of getting right before the Lord. It's not just here in Australia, but it's around the world. And the mentality is going to get worse with people. With the distractions that are happening to distract you from what's really going on. The entertainment, the media industry, liberalism, political correctness is going to get even worse and worse. The godless society that we're living in. And again, in 2 weeks' time, on Tuesday, the April 14th, the altar of Baal is going to be erected in New York and also in London. And there's going to be 1,000 other cities around the world that this is going to be set up as well. And just a word of caution as we close. Be careful, friends. Don't compromise. Don't drop your guard. Stay alert. Stay watchful. We're living in the last days. We're watching these things come to pass. So stay sensitive as well. And keep your passion for the Lord and for the Word of God. Stay focused on Jesus and stay ready for the return of Jesus Christ. Amen? And that concludes today's update.